Hi, Beata. Thank you for joining me today for the interview.
Hi, Lily. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Could you start off by introduce yourself briefly?
So my name is Beata. I am an organizational psychologist. I was born and raised in Burnaby, British Columbia, and now live out in Vancouver. That's a little bit about me.
You said you're a psychologist. What's your passion about?
I studied organizational psychology in graduate school. That's quite a new term, I know, in the working world. But basically, what it means is that we do a lot of work with organizations around how to make sure that organizations are as productive as possible, while employees are as satisfied as possible in their roles, and that the people on the receiving end, for instance, I work in healthcare, so patients, they're getting the best care possible.
You talk about this particular role. Is that something you're really passionate about? How did you find that?
When I was around 18 or 19 years old, I was doing a lot of exploration around my career. And for a really long time, I thought I wanted to go to law school, become a humanitarian lawyer. After a little bit and studying for the LSAT, I realized I don't think this is for me. I don't think it complements what I enjoy doing. When I was around 20 years old, I started working out in the downtown east side. So I just started by volunteering and handing out food, and working out there was really rewarding because I met some amazing people and I realized that I really enjoyed giving back to society. I really enjoyed it because not only was I giving back, but I was learning so much about myself as well. So from there, I became really passionate about counseling. When I found that passion, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I just felt sure. It wasn't an if and or but. I was very certain. And from there, I started studying in my postgraduate endeavors and started studying counseling, which I really enjoyed. In midst of all of that, I came across a friend of mine who was studying organizational psychology. And so we'd go and study together often. One day I just started reading her textbook and I thought, how interesting is this? There's so many social psychology applications that are being applied in the world of work. And what are we trying to achieve here? And so after speaking with her a little bit about what she was studying, I realized, that might be another way to contribute to the world of work, in a way that I know how and that I know will fulfill and complement all of my needs in a profession. And so, I went for some informational interviews. I informationally interviewed a couple people who were already in the organizational psychology program. I found them through different contacts that I had through my friend. And I also found them on forums like LinkedIn, which was really great. And then afterwards, I actually set up a meeting to go speak with one of the professors that ran the organizational psychology department at
Mm.
the school that I was interested in attending. And so I kind of interviewed him and I asked him, what is organizational psychology about? What do graduates normally do after they graduate? What are the types of jobs that they apply for? And what do those jobs look like? Not just in theory, but in everyday practice. What does a day in the life of an organizational psychologist look like? And so after interviewing with him, I really, really became interested in what we were talking about and what he was explaining that the very new field was exploring. And so from there, I decided, wow, I can use these counseling tools that I've been studying to apply in the world of work. So that's how I got into it.
I can see that's a progression from your interest doing work with downtown east side to study counseling psychology and to information interview to get those more information about organizational psychology.
Mhm.
Now you have been working in the field for a while. So what are the key qualities you would consider that contribute to your performance?
I think the key qualities in this work is listening. I do a lot of listening in order to do a lot of my work. And it needs to be effective listening. And I actually didn't learn how to do that until very later on in my career. Listening isn't just hearing somebody with your ears, it's actually hearing what they're saying, summarizing it back to them, making sure that you're on the
Mhm.
same page, and you're able to communicate effectively with them in order to meet in the middle to figure out a good solution for you both. So I use a lot of that attribute in my everyday work, along with a lot of relationship building and partnering with different clients, different people, different teams that I work with. I think another quality that I use often, I would say, is empathy. One thing that I learned working out in the downtown east side at a young age was it's really important to put myself in other people's shoes. Once I was able to do that, I was able to understand where that person is coming from and able to respond in a way that allowed us to come to a better resolution if we were working together. And conflict, which is another attribute that I've learned and I think is super helpful, dealing with conflict, I should say. And it's natural, it happens all the time, and it always happens. It doesn't matter if you are the happiest person in the world or, you're trying to avoid it. It is inevitable when teams work together, when anybody works closely together, if it's siblings or parents, or even when you're at work, of course, conflict happens. And so learning how to deal with conflict. And I found that empathy was a really big part of dealing with conflict, but also listening attentively, hearing what the other person is saying, keeping a calm tone of voice, really respectful listening, so not interrupting. Those are really big parts of my role. And I think that they speak to more of the soft skills. But what I'm finding is that soft skills are really, really becoming more and more important day by day in the world of work, particularly in my role.
You speak about listening, empathy, conflict resolution. Seems like you starting developing those skills like when you enter in the workplace. So I'm just curious about how did you develop all those skills?
I really love the Indigo psychology section. Always up to date with what different researchers are looking at. And even if it's just reading a summary, sometimes I don't have enough time to read the entire book. But I'm still interested in what they found because I think it's valuable. So I'll listen to it on Audible while I'm at the gym, and I'll listen to it over my headphones or while I'm going for a walk. Yeah, so those are a few ways that I learn.
Thank you for sharing that. As a lifelong learner, I can personally testify how much you share your knowledge and what you have learned through all the learnings. So I'm curious, through this journey to this point, is there any particular challenge or difficulties arose?
I think thinking back to when I first wanted to pursue any of this, it is so difficult sometimes to choose because we feel like there's only one career out there for us and one thing out there for us to do, and that's it. And looking back, I wish I could have gone back and told myself that there isn't. There are so many different things that we can do. Sometimes they just build on each other. It's not a science. We can't plan for it all the time. I remember thinking back and going, oh my goodness, I need to choose what I need to do for the rest of my life. And I realized that that was putting a lot of pressure on trying to do and how to do it successfully, because sometimes you don't do something for the rest of your life, but you build on it. Sometimes you go through phases of, hey, I'm interested in this and at this stage of my life. And maybe 5 or 7 years later, you might be interested in something else and take that up. And so going back to my younger me, I would definitely assure myself that it's okay to change careers, or it's okay to build on your career, because I remember starting out in counseling and thinking, okay, I'm going to be a counselor. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work in therapy and, planning out piece by piece. And now I'm in the world of counseling psychology and I'm an organizational coach, and I still built on that knowledge, but I didn't imagine being where I was now 10 years ago. Sometimes just being patient and being self-compassionate, I think, is really important in the process. And I know that that sounds abstract, as in, like, how do you do that? So for instance, a self-care tool that I use a lot is meditation. So I do 5 to 10 minutes of meditation a day. Sometimes I don't have enough time to do 20. I try my best to do 20, but sometimes when I don't have that time, I'll do 5 to 10 minutes. And it just helps me become more clear on my values and how I'd like to move forward, especially when I feel like there is a decision that I need to make about something
Mm.
and I don't know in which way to move forward with it. And also having conversations with different people, looking back to when I was a kid, what naturally drew me to what I was interested in. So, for instance, I remember my mom telling me a couple years ago at the dinner table that she remembers when I was probably around 6 or 7, that my teacher would always call her and say, like, Mrs. Chami, your daughter is just always like following people and trying to make sure that they're okay, and I was mortified. I was like, oh my goodness, like, was I really like that? And my mom was like, yes, but what is that telling you? You care and that you want to be in a helping profession. And so looking back to your childhood, what were you naturally drawn to doing? And how can you link that to the direction that you want to go professionally? Because it's not always about something you're good at. Sometimes you're good at something and you actually don't enjoy doing it. And that's okay. I personally feel that the goal of a successful career where I can thrive is doing something that I truly enjoy, that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, yes, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Because there's tons of things that I'm good at that I don't necessarily want to do for 40 hours a week. So just really making sure that it's not just something we're good at, that it's something we enjoy doing as well. If you enjoy doing it and you're not good at it yet, that you can build on that skill. There's a great book by a psychologist. Her name is Angela Duckworth, and the book is called Grit. She writes and does so much research about the difference between a talent and a skill. Essentially, a talent is something that we're naturally born with, and a skill is something that we can build on. And so there are lots of folks, including Olympic gold medalists, who, to start out with, weren't super good at what they were interested in playing a sport in, but they practiced and they put in work and they learned. And then they loved what they were doing. They still knew they loved it even when they weren't good at it. And so making sure that we don't discount or dismiss opportunities just because we're not good at something, because there are so many different skills that we can learn and build on, and that practice is the only thing that we need.
Thank you, Beata. I can sense even when you speak about this, I can feel your passion, how much care you're giving to this.
Thank you.
You talk about the building blocks. I really like that metaphor. If you consider all those building blocks you have equipped through your education, what would you pick as the most important building blocks?
I would say that my bachelor's degree in university from UBC was one of the most important parts of my journey. And I always say it's not about particularly what you study, but how you study and what you learn from that 4-year degree. And for me, I don't necessarily remember every single thing that I studied in university, but the key things that I got from that experience was learning how to write, learning how to do research, learning how to read different scholarly articles that like otherwise I wouldn't really understand, and how to incorporate evidence-based pieces in my work, learning how to critically think. I remember we'd have a lot of debates about different topics, and I never understood why we were having them because my conflict style is avoidant. Naturally, I do not like conflict. And so that's why my professional development course in difficult conversations was super important for me. That said, it taught me so much about thinking outside the box and that there's not just one answer to things. And so it taught me how to be creative and innovative. And a lot of the different professors that I had were so wonderful in helping me do that in my essays, in my projects. A lot of the times we did group projects. So that helped me figure out how to effectively work with teammates and how to get a project done with more than one person, how to communicate within that. Like I say, I think that was a really big part of my journey. And it inspired me to want to keep learning. It taught me so many different skills along the way that the knowledge wasn't the only thing that I learned. There were so many other different soft and hard skills that came with it.
Thank you for doing that summary. What you have really gained, particularly during that university. Before we end our conversation, I wonder if there's anything you want to share that I haven't asked.
Another part that was very difficult in the journey of figuring out what my career was is gaining the courage to actually go after the dream, gaining the courage to figure out how to apply for school, gaining the courage to fail forward, to figure out, okay, what happens if I'm not accepted? And to keep trying. One thing that I've learned in my life is not that I'm going to be successful no matter what I do, because first time is not always successful. You have to keep trying. What I'm trying to say is that persistence is key. If you truly want something and you truly enjoy doing it, you will get there. Just keep going no matter what. Even if you get that rejection letter, do not give up. That is just one letter. Keep talking to people, keep manifesting the thoughts, keep writing the admissions letters, speak to faculty, connect with people who are in the field, and get creative. There's so many different things we can do, but don't give up. I think a lot of what we see on social media and around us are people's success stories. And a lot of the time, what we don't see is the challenges and the difficulties that they face getting to that success. And I'm here to say that none of anybody's success came easily. It all came with hard work. It all came with being persistent and keeping at it and consistently trying. So I hope that you are inspired by this and that you know that you have everything that it takes and you are 100% worthy to do whatever you put your energy towards and you truly think is meant for you.
Thank you, Beta, for this inspiration. As we're ending our interview today, so I wish you whatever you set for yourself for 2021 with your persistence, with your passion, I'm sure you'll get there even further.
Thank you, Lily. It's been such a pleasure. I wish the same for you. Happy 2021.
Thanks, Beta.
Take good care.